Hey everybody, I'm Tasha, and today we are peeling back the curtain of my latest design process. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I design a quilt and the evolution of my latest quilt pattern, Petals Crossing. I hope that you will find this as interesting as I did, because this quilt, I'm not an artist. It is not easy for me to design a quilt, and I thought it would be fun to kind of share the behind the scenes of how this quilt came to be. So let's dive right into it. And if you see me looking down, I'm just looking at my PowerPoint, and this is going to be informal. It's like we're having a chat together. So here we go. When I am bored, I would say, I scroll through quite a few things. I love looking at geometric patterns on Pinterest. I also like scrolling through Instagram and other picture-based, apps or things like that. I also like to observe tiles or geometric patterns just in places I visit. And so here you can see one of my favorite searches on Pinterest is geometric pattern design, graphic illustrations, or just geometric patterns, and so many interesting and unique things pop up. And so this is one of my favorite places to get inspiration, but actually my inspiration for this latest quilt pattern came from Instagram, something called Mosaic Mondays, and it was a Lego mosaic, which is right here, and I'm going to link to this Instagram post in the description. I believe I found this late last year, and I even think I made a video about how I found it. So this particular mosaic inspiring, and if I can find it, I'll link it right up here. And there was just something about this layout that I found absolutely stunning. Obviously, it would be very difficult to make it a one-for-one for a quilt, but I thought it was super cool, and I just couldn't wait to take inspiration from this design and see what I could come up with and make it a quilt of my own. So first up, we'll talk about my design process, and you're going to kind of see this through. It is design, agonize, change, repeat. So I will design something, I'll think I'll really like it, I'll change something, I'll agonize over it, change something else, and then until I'm like finally truly happy with the quilt. And it can take a long time. Like this one probably took 12 to 15 hours over the course of 6 months, right? Because I have a full-time job. So I'm just playing with this stuff in between things late at night, on the weekends. And you can't rush this kind of thing. At least I can't. I'm not an artist. I'm not I can't just dream up something and make it come to life. I really have to kind of go through the process until I see it. So you can see here that if we go back to the Lego slide, I really first started liking these shapes here and here. Hopefully this is big enough. Let me make this a little bigger. Ooh, too big. I really liked these shapes right here. Very cool. And so you can kind of see I leaned into that here. I often start a quilt design with just 2 colors because it's easier for me to look at the shapes. Color is something I really, really, really struggle with. So I usually start with shapes and try to add color later. But you can see I started here and then I added color to it, and it just, it's a very simple design and it does not capture the essence of that Lego mosaic. So that got scrapped. So then I continued on my journey here, and you can see that shape still exists here in the corners, but then I'm playing with different shapes and different colors, kind of back to the 2-tone here. That's what I default to, like I said. And this one, I do kind of still like this idea of having like these corners and then a funky shape kind of in the middle. I really like this one too, but there's just something about it I don't love. Maybe I would smooth this out if I were to try it again, at least the sides. Not sure, but I like designing quilts in quadrants. So basically you can take one quadrant, make it, and duplicate it 4 times and you'll get the design. I don't know, is that a kaleidoscope, or I'm not sure what that is, but I like quadrant quilts now that I've made quite a few, and that's where I default. So that wasn't doing it for me, and so I kind of cleaned up this like outer shape here on this one on the right. And when I'm designing, I'm not sold on the colors yet, right? I'm just throwing different colors in to kind of see what it looks like if you change colors. This one I liked, but it does remind me a lot of like my Pinnacle Pop pattern, and it just I don't know, wasn't speaking to me. So as we continue on, kind of straightening out that diamond. Oh, if I look at this, I'm missing the point over here. That's kind of funny. Still there, but it wasn't doing it for me. And then I changed this middle part, and I feel like that's when everything started to happen for me in my brain, because this middle part, obviously reminds me of this middle part. Not quite the same. I'm adding an orange peel in, but now I have this essence here. And you can even notice that when we go back here, I have now lost that stuff in the corners that I loved and started with in the beginning. I don't even have that here anymore. That's gone. So I really, really liked this design and adding these petals here and starting to see this floral shape coming. And all of a sudden I was really, really liking it. And I thought this was the one. So I added some blocks in the side and I thought these were too plain. And so then I tried to jazz it up a little bit and it still wasn't right. And then, you know, we kind of evolved from this one with like the stars on the outside to just kind of bringing back that shape there, adding in this crazy border. I like this one. Again, that Pantone, the Challenge, the brown. But then I just kept playing with shapes and you can see like, okay, I'm going to replicate this shape and put it out here and then add in some more. And it happened really fast. From here to here was a very quick progression for me. My brain was going really, really quick. It took me probably months to get to this point and probably one day to get from here to here. But you can see I still had this quilt as a 2-color quilt, adding in these extra shapes. And I liked this as a 2-color quilt. I really thought I was going to make it as a Pantone Challenge quilt. And then I submitted it to Quilting, which is a great website that as a pattern designer, you can put your patterns on and people can color your patterns so they can make them their own. And Catalina, the amazing woman behind Quilting, saw my 2-color quilt and she was like, Tasha, girlfriend, we can do better than that. And I was like, I'm so terrible at color. And I was just so sick of looking at it in a way, like I was rushing the end. I just wanted to be done. I wanted to be cutting fabric. And she's like, give me a few days and let me see what I can come up with. And boom. She came up with this colorway. These are the same exact quilts, but colored differently. And she sent me a few options and this was definitely my favorite one. And so that's the one I'm making and that's the cover quilt. And that's what I did all the fabric requirements off of. I absolutely love this quilt and I can't wait. I'm almost done with it. Well, I'm getting there. I cannot wait to finish making this quilt. So, you know, it's hard. I wish I had some more screenshots of this in between and maybe one of these days I'll try to actually record myself doing this. This is all done in Adobe Illustrator. I do find some of these blocks that I didn't end up using. I get inspired from EQ8. So here's, you know, where I started and where I landed, right? What a wild journey. This is all in the same Adobe Illustrator file. I started with loving these designs in the corners and they didn't even make the final cut. And here's the comparison to the Lego mosaic. And while it's not a replica in any way, shape, or form, I do think that you can see the colors, right, are similar. And that's probably why I loved this colorway that Catalina made. The shape of the center is very similar. The fact that it's in quadrants is very similar. This shape here, which if you know anything about me and my Blooming Blades quilt, you know I love this like little tulipy shape. So that definitely came into play and was definitely an inspiration when I got to this version. Obviously, I'm pulling direct inspiration from that Lego to add those shapes in, but then ultimately ended up flipping them. So I feel very comfortable that this is inspired by and took some of my favorite pieces of this Lego mosaic and turned it into something that I really love. And I actually see this as being like a series of quilts for me. I can totally see myself like doing this Petals Crossing, like inspired by flowers in a garden. Honestly, that is my happy place. I live in upstate New York. There's nothing like a New York summer. Beautiful flowers, that sunshine, the birds chirping. It's just pure joy for me. So being in a flower garden, although I'm not a gardener, thankfully my stepmom is, so I can go enjoy her gardens and all of the lovely gardens around here. Maybe someday I'll evolve into a gardener. This really represents like something that's really happy to me. These colors are really happy to me. I really loved this process. So what do you guys think? Did you like some of these other patterns? Do you ever design a quilt? How do you do it? Can you see the Lego mosaic in my final design? Have you ever gotten inspiration for a piece of art from a random place? I don't know. You know me. Tell me everything in the comments below. You know I want to hear it. So yes, my quilt pattern comes out next week. If you're seeing this video on the day it releases, and if you're not, it might already be out. This will be exclusive to my membership. If you join the Quilters Clubhouse, by the end of June, it's only $5 a month, which means you can join, download the pattern, and leave for $5, which is a steal. really, if I do say so myself. So the price will go up July 1st, but to $8. So still a steal. Whenever you're seeing this, still a steal. Come see the Clubhouse. I will put the link down below for you to join. Thanks for watching. I hope you find some time to do something you love. I will talk to you next week. Okay, bye.